Good morning to one and all. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Anshu Jain, and yet again I would like to extend a warm welcome to every single person who's present here to the 7th Middle East Banking, AI and Analytics Summit. What a terrific, engaging session it was right in the very beginning. We dwelled upon multiple subjects, the crucial subjects that certainly imparted a lot of knowledge and helped us gain a lot of expertise in the world of AI and analytics and the value that it brings in when we talk about banking. In this fast evolving world, harnessing the power of AI and ensuring that we are utilizing the impact or it is deployed and developed in a manner that the social norms are maintained is of utmost importance. We had a look at all these subjects during the first session, but this second session brings forth a lot of knowledge which is related to data and AI at the core of banking transformation. Well, in today's data-intensive banking industry, capitalizing on data and harnessing the power of AI and data analytics are crucial for driving personalized offerings, achieving business objectives, and fostering strategic growth. Moderated by Rodney Coutinho, the Partner Transformation, Data and AI Lead Financial Services at Deloitte, this session will explore the transformative power of AI and data in banking, emphasizing their potential to drive informed decision-making and strategic growth. With that, it's time to meet our esteemed panelist, Arun Mehta, Chief Data Analytics Officer at First Abu Dhabi Bank. Dr. Devid Jegerson, the Chief Operating Officer at Invest Bank. Mr. Richardson, the Chief Data Analytics Officer at Emirates NBD. And joining him is Garry, Sien, the Chief Solutions Architect, Global Financial Services Solutions at Alibaba Cloud. And together, our panelists will share insights and perspectives on how data and artificial intelligence are driving banking transformation. Please help me welcome them with a huge round of applause.
A warm welcome. Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here for our panel discussion on what is an immensely important topic on data and AI being at the heart of the transformation that we're seeing around us in banking and financial services as a whole. Yours truly, Rodney Coutinho from Deloitte. My primary focus, as you can imagine, data, analytics, artificial intelligence, of course, in financial services. And I'm deeply honored to be here to moderate this panel discussion with leaders in data and artificial intelligence in the region and globally. Let's begin by introducing our distinguished panelists, and if I may individually ask everyone to please introduce yourself, reflecting your position in your respective organizations, and a quick summary, if I may please, on your experience in driving data and AI initiatives. Arun, can I begin with you, please?
Thanks, Rodney. I think it's my honor to be here in front of this audience and with the fellow industry colleagues. My name is Arun. I've been, I'll say, in the region for almost 1 year, more than 1 year now, as the head of data analytics for First Abu Dhabi Bank in the capacity of CDAO. And before this, I was mostly working for international banks, mostly in Europe with HSBC, NatWest, and the similar kind of roles. And before that in US with Capital One, Morgan Stanley, and those kind of investment banks. I think just 10 seconds on what we are up to. I think in First Abu Dhabi Bank, AI, artificial intelligence innovation is the core of what we do, but core of what we do for customer engagement betterment, for improving the the level of services that we give to our stakeholders, internal as well as external. And that's why whether it's platform modernization, it's, embarking on the Gen AI journey, AI journey, it's all linked up to a common cause. And that's how we can improve customer experience as well as how we can get efficiencies and risk reduction in the bank. I think rest will talk in the panel, but that's the journey on which I am embarking with the super team that I have.
Thank you, Arun. Devid, please.
So afternoon, everyone. My name is Devid Jegerson, COO on Invest Bank. I'm in the region. So first of all, thank you for inviting me, given that I always a bit controversial, so I'm well surprised to get invited second time. By the way, I'm in the region from 8 years because I've launched Noon.com at the beginning, one of the founders. Before that, I launched PayPal in Italy, one of the prepaid card, rechargeable prepaid cards, P2P payments. I'm in the financial startups and banks from 30 plus years, and that's still not enough. It should, I think. And that's it. I'm enjoying.
Great. I guess I'm next. My name is Ray Richardson, so I'm the Chief Data and Analytics Officer at ENBD. And it's a great pleasure to be here. Thanks to Rodney for the invite to speak to everybody today. So I'm in the region about 2 years. Prior to that, I was with Deutsche Bank for about 7 years. At Deutsche Bank, I was the group head of advanced analytics. I guess at ENBD, the additional element really is data, and having responsibility for data and the wider data landscape. So ENBD about 2 years ago made a really big investment around advanced analytics. So we've got a team of close to 150 people, basically, focused on building advanced analytics solutions, more laterally looking at Gen AI. We also have a team that's looking at the wider data landscape, because actually that's the key enabler for having trustworthy, effective and efficient advanced analytics solutions. So I guess we can talk a little bit more about that during the discussion, during the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Garry.
All right. Last but not least, good afternoon. My name is Garry. So I'm the Chief Solutions Architect for the FSI domain for Alibaba Cloud International. I'm based out of Hong Kong, so I just landed in Dubai very early this morning. So it's I'm hyped up on coffee, so it's good. Great coffee in Dubai. My team and I, so we support FSI clients across the banking, insurance, capital markets, and sort of the fintech domain across the globe. Personally, been exposed to the MEA region for the last 2 years. Been with Alibaba Cloud for about 5 years, predominantly working on sort of the APAC region. Prior to that, I was a CTO of an Australian bank in Shanghai, known as ANZ Banking Group Limited, for those who knows. Banking for 10 plus years, Alibaba Cloud for the last 5 years, trying to help many of our customers to shape the way banking and financial services would look. Now, of course, Alibaba, as many of you who know, we're actually predominantly, I think we call ourselves a data business. So it's also part of our job to help some of our customers to realize, I think, the potential and also the value it can bring to help yourselves making better use of AI, I would put.
Thank you, Garry. So there's ample of coffee around, so don't you worry. Right, okay. Thank you for that insightful introduction, and I'm sure, without a hint of doubt, that you bring in a wealth of expertise and experience to this panel. So without any further ado, let's dive straight into the conversation. So first things first, gentlemen, we all are aware of the transformation that the banking industry is seeing. We see a number of new players in the form of fintechs in the market. Equally, we see massive transformation that is happening as part of the journey that incumbents are taking and has been taking for the past few years and will be the case going forward. So in terms of the criticality of data and AI as a whole, how important do you think it is for banking transformation as a whole? Can we begin with yourself, Arun, please?
So how important is banking transformation? Is that the
How
question?
important is data and AI to banking transformation?
Sure. I think I would like to answer it in two dimensions. First of all, the top-down force, which is leading to transformation, and the second is the intuitive force to do the transformation. Let me explain what I mean by that. I think what Gen AI as a buzzword has done in the last, I'll say 12 months or so, it has got everybody talking about AI, ML, and the power of it, which means, if it is something where from the data analytics AI perspective, we were trying to push, let's do more of data analytics and so on. Now it's the other way around, because in the EXCO corridors, this is a regular discussion that what can we do more in AI and analytics. So that way, in terms of selling the concept, I think we are up there. Now the real juice is how one could get the value and create the use cases which are appropriate to be undertaken as a part of traditional AI or Gen AI. So I think that's where the transformation, I would say communication has to happen. The second most important, I'll say bottom-up transformation that at least I foresee in financial industry and in our bank is about the real need-based transformation, wherein the customer demands are increasing, improving. They want hyper-personalization. I mean, I don't want to be solicited randomly for any product offer. I would like my bank, my organization, even as an employee, to know about my demands. And then I should be solicited with those corresponding so-called best nudges and best offers. And that's where I think that is becoming a linchpin for now going front to back and back to front in terms of what transformation you need to do in terms of the employee value proposition, customer engagement, in terms of the data quality, so that the mandate that you have for regulators that is met, automation of processes. And for doing that, do we have the skill, to kind of make it happen? So for me, there are multiple facets to this transformation, and creating a package out of it is a challenge, but I'm happy that in our bank, we are able to at least, scratch the surface, and now we are on a path wherein this year is all about value creation.
Thank you, Arun. And you touched upon a number of points. And Ray, if I may get your point of view on the criticality. Arun spoke about back-to-front transformation, including business operations. What do you believe are the critical success factors that data and AI will help solving or achieving from a business operations standpoint? Ray?
So, yeah, I mean, I think the question started in terms of how important is data and AI for banking, and frankly, I think it's an existential issue, okay? And what I'm talking about is if banks want to retain or maintain the customer relationship, they're going to have to become hyper-personalized, okay? So people in general are not interested in product-centric banking. They want customer-centric banking. So they want to be offered financial services that are specific to them, that it's at the right time, and the pricing as well. It needs to reflect the relationship value of that customer, perhaps the lifetime value of that customer. Okay. Frankly, if we don't do that, others will do that. Okay. And we'll end up actually not owning the customer relationship, and that will become an existential issue. Now, if we look at, you asked a question about operations, and operations is interesting in that we have a whole portfolio of use cases. We have cost-saving, efficiency-driving use cases. We've got risk reduction use cases. We've got revenue-generating use cases. By far the most important ones are the revenue-generating use cases, the ones that provide hyper-personalization. Sure, we also have use cases in fraud, in risk. These are all very, very important, maintaining our license to operate, so to speak, as a bank. In terms of operations, driving efficiencies, interestingly, that was very important in my previous employer, a European bank. It's much less so here. A very simple thing, the cost-income ratio in banks here is entirely different, okay? From an operation perspective, what's the use cases that really bubble to the top, that are most important, are customer experience, okay? So how can we mine the massive amounts of data we have in terms of customer interaction points with us to improve the customer experience? So not to reduce costs, not to drive efficiencies, but just have a better customer experience.
Thank you, Ray. And touching upon some of the points you raised around customer experience and focusing on revenue generation use cases, David, what's your view on data and AI being the key driver to unlocking the value through some of the use cases that Ray mentioned, primarily focusing on the customer aspect of it?
There is a lot of value, of course, but let me just share which is my personal experience with AI that I had in the last 2 decades. So the first one was when I spent some years with PayPal. Talking about 2006, 2008, and at that time, PayPal, you know, P2P payments, receiving payments and sending payments online, we had a very big problem with AML, anti-money laundering. And thanks to a bunch of very nerds people, they come up, to be honest with you, they come up with a very first way to do image processing. That is one of the tools of AI to recognize the pattern in images that were representing fund transfer. So imagine that the fund transfer between peers, between PayPal accounts, were represented graphically, okay? And when some specific situation was representing a potential money laundering pattern, there were kind of learning path for the machine learning algorithm to recognize that kind of pattern. So that was the first way to really cleverly try to use AI in the financial industry. And it was working very well. Law enforcement was leveraging this kind of way to raise beyond much far beyond the kind of knowledge. Second was kind of related to operation. When I was in Italy, digital bank, we launched a payment gateway, and we had the first slap in the face when we recognized that around 2% of payments was frauds. So 2% in terms of value, that was huge. So we had to come up with something that was quickly and effectively allow us to reduce the number of frauds. We tried rule-based mechanisms, we tried a lot of things. At that time, we were talking about 2010. So just to tell you that AI was already in the market from a while. We download, me and another PhD guy, we download a piece of model from Salesforce that at that time was open source database of things. And we selected the first data points for let the algorithm learning. And we decreased in 8 months from 2% to 0.2% of the frauds, thanks because, okay, we selected the data point in each single payment transaction that was managing the payment gateway, but because we put 2 human beings, operators, that for each single transaction, they were daily, hourly, learning with saying this transaction is good, this transaction is good, it's not good. Because the algorithm were giving us a kind of range of effectiveness on how much this transaction was potential frauds or not. And that's how we learn to get the effectiveness of the algorithm. Nowadays, with generative AI, is a different kind of game. But again, the point that we have to start, we have to think that, first of all, you need to understand how the algorithm is working. In sense of, is an associative algorithm, is not rule-based. It's not a bunch of line of codes that has been executed. I mean, there are some, you can imagine that you have 2 levels of bunch of how is working ChatGPT. Is to give you an answer is a subsequent bunch of words that the neural algorithm is putting aside, right? So to do that, there are some specific paths between one word and another. And to get effectiveness, there are some transformers, and I don't want to get technical on this. So the challenge is how many words, how much data you can let the algorithm crunch, and how much you can, and how better you let the algorithm learn to give you the right answer. So that is our challenge nowadays. Banks, in general, but also the big organizations, are not completely ready to have the data structured enough to crunch the algorithm, because we have everything starting from there, okay? So we have to, before, learn how to structure the data. IBM demonstrated 3 years ago that the 80% of the data that all the large organizations are still unstructured. That means that organizations are sitting on data that they don't know how to manage it. And then we can talk about how to apply AI.
Thank you, David. That was very insightful. So given the discussion, Garry, that we've had so far, I'd be interested in knowing, and you mentioned you just arrived from Hong Kong, so I'll make the most of it. So in terms of comparing UAE versus some of the other global jurisdictions, your experience in Hong Kong, how do you see this region grow in the past few years, and how do you see the emphasis in the region on data and AI compared to some of the other experiences that you may have had?
Yeah, so, I mean, if we take a sort of a macro view on let's just call it the interest in AI, right? Because I obviously think that AI in banking domain isn't exactly new, right? But I sort of compare it back to when, during COVID, you know, using my own personal example, is that my wife and kids started to talk about video conference and Zoom. Like, you know, they've learned this new technique and tools to be able to communicate, but if you look at it from a corporate sense, we've been using such technology for long as well. Thanks to Gen AI, large language model, whichever terms you want to term it, it's almost becomes, I call it the Google moment of AI. Everyone talks about it, like they're the expert. And which is fine, I think that's fantastic. So the reason I've sort of put that backdrop in place is that that really then challenges both from a banking stakeholder's point of view, especially our best friends in the risk management committee. Anyone from risk legal compliance? Surely, there must be someone, yeah. Love them, right? I love you. And this is very important because the positioning of banks in view of adopting AI is going to take a fundamental shift, because it's really going to challenge the way you look at risk. It's almost rebaselining. How do you manage the risk of AI? What is the risk of AI? Now you then overlay that to, and you mentioned, right, what is the different viewpoints of the regulators? Now what I'm going to tell you is, so recently, say in Hong Kong, we love the word deepfake, right? Thanks to Gen AI, the cost of doing deepfake attacks is actually becoming very low. You can easily find some open source technology out there, and for an everyday individual, you can generate high quality deepfake images that you can use during digital onboarding, which most institutions now, post-COVID, are offering digital onboarding. In fact, you may have seen the news recently. There were some large crypto exchanges, large payment companies. I think one of them, David worked for before, which was exposed on that article as in accepting deepfake passport images, right? Just like that. Bang. So in Hong Kong, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, when it comes to use of AI, they've published they call it a guideline, but I think it's actually a regulation, in terms of explainable AI. Mm-hmm. Right? So whatever tools that you're using today, be it KYC engine, be it AML engine, whatever it is, banks have the obligation and the ability to explain what the engine is actually doing. So long gone are the days that you put a vendor in front of the regulator and say, vendor, please explain. Nope, not accepted anymore. I haven't seen that replicated yet, but we know that regulators talk to each other. They learn from each other, especially, to be honest, Hong Kong and the Middle East are having a deeper and deeper tie in terms of their communication. So I would not be surprised. That's you and us, of course, as the solution provider and also bankers here, is that you are now expected to explain to your respective local regulators as to what the AI itself is. Now, not to say that you have to expose the underlying nitty-gritty, but you need to have the ability to say, look, how is it trained? What sort of model does it use? Right? Are there bias in your training? You need to at least have that ability. Because only if you know what the AI is doing, then you know where the risk is. Then you can have the control and mitigation in place. Right? So I think from a trending point of view, I think that's sort of what I'm seeing.
Sure.
But of course, I think as the development continues to evolve in itself, it'll be very interesting to see across the globe what each of the regulators, what are some of the positions that they take. Because they are also mindful that if they are overly prescriptive, then of course that's going to sort of restrict the innovation, right, or the exploration of such technology in the banking sector.
Sure.
If I may just to add one thing, Garry, and because you mentioned that it's very good to have a high awareness of the AI, and I agree on that, but we have to be careful because, in a way, we need to also be aware that we are at the cusp of, at the acme of the highest point of awareness of AI, specifically Gen AI. And if you map it like the awareness of the maturity of the technology, like usually Gartner do, we are really at the top. That usually, in the future, there will be a kind of disappointed part of the curve that you need to be aware that is happening. So that's why talking about AI, and especially at the higher level, when at the board level, management level, when they're creating expectation, we have to be careful because it's not easy applying AI. AI is not a Salvation Army. It's not something that save. If you are in a bad shape in the market, AI in a snap will not save you if you not save your business model. So that's why, and the data that you are running now.
Yeah.
It's very, in my view, it's quite important to send this kind of message.
Absolutely. And you spot on. So to Garry's point and David, there needs to be a balance between value and risk mitigation. And ladies and gentlemen, this is what I meant when I introduced the session, that I am deeply honored to be in the midst of this panel, because if you've realized in the past 10, 15 minutes, we've pretty much touched upon all the facets of data and AI through the discussion that we are having with these leaders. So we've touched upon risk, we've touched upon how data AI is being used for delivering world-class customer experience, to what Ray mentioned. We've heard from Arun in terms of what the importance of data and AI is, and of course Garry touching upon the important aspect of explainable AI, and David highlighting the importance of risk mitigation on that topic too. So I'd like to move on to something that is really important for not just two people on the podium, but for each and every person, I'm assuming, in the room, which is, if I was to look at all the moving parts from a data and AI standpoint, then what will make a good strategy in the next 2 to 3 years? What is that needs to happen such that we unlock the value of data and AI for our customers, for our businesses, but equally have a mechanism to safeguard the businesses through a comprehensive risk management framework. So I'd like to turn to Ray, if I may, if you don't mind giving us a peek into where your head is at in terms of what you would want to do in the next 2 to 3 years, please.
Sure. It's kind of a big question, but I guess, in very simple terms, what we want to do is we want to safely scale our AI and advanced analytics solutions across the bank, okay? And if we look at, we have looked, in terms of what are the challenges in terms of safe scaling, and really a lot of it comes back down to data, okay? So we're a bank, and like almost every bank, we've got huge volumes of uncatalogued, largely multi-source data with, we don't necessarily have measures of data quality across all of our data. We're not always very, very sure of the provenance of the data, so whether the data we're looking at is actually coming from a golden source for this type of data. And we also, when we're looking at the data, we can't really say whether, what policies pertain to the use of that data, because a lot of our data isn't properly instrumented, okay? Now, this whole thing is made a whole lot worse when we talk about Gen AI, because Gen AI talks about unstructured data. And then there's whole new measures that come in there in terms of, the reputability of this data, whether it's concise, okay? Because your data chunking strategy with Gen AI is very, very important, in terms of what data goes into your large language models. So for me, a lot of this comes back to data. When I looked at our first wave of use cases, it took us nearly a year to roll out our first set of use cases. That's way, way too long. And these are standard ML, advanced analytic use cases. When again, we examined why did it take so long, issues of data discoverability, data understandability, and data quality all came out, okay? So we've embarked on a multi-year, I have to admit, data strategy, which is looking at democratizing access to data. We've taken this data mesh approach. So it's an entirely federated approach, whereby we're looking at the producers and the owners of the data, and we're asking those people to be aware of who are the consumers of that data, and to create curated versions of that data. And when I say a curated version of a data, it means we create data products. And each data product has to be self-describing. So you look into your data product, the fields that make up the data product, you'll have information about what those fields mean. You'll have information about the data quality, okay? And I'm not looking for perfect data quality. You're never going to get perfect data quality. If the first step is to have 100% data quality, you're not going to get to the second step, okay? But what you should have is you should have a measure of data quality. And then you can make an informed decision that actually for this use case, the quality is good enough. We can go ahead, okay? And then similarly, we need to have information around data lineage and policies that pertain to the data. Again, all of this really gets down to instrumenting your data, whether it's unstructured or structured, into these data products. Now, it's interesting, I had the benefit of, none of this is new, actually, and lots of banks have tried to do this in the past. We were one of them in a previous organization. I was part of that. We tried to do it centrally. We had this massive team that was going to build this universe. We didn't call them data products then. I can't remember what we called them. But they were curated data. Okay, we spent a lot of money. We used a lot of people. We created a lot of, we didn't call them data products, but we created a lot of data products. It didn't work. They weren't used, okay? And it didn't work because the owners, the producers of the data weren't involved, okay? They didn't trust this data, okay? So our approach, which is going to be different this time around, is it's an entirely federated approach. So we've split our data landscape into 12 data domains and about 24 subdomains. And each one of these has an owner. It's in the business, okay? Because we recognize that, okay, payments, who knows most about payments? Actually, that was an interesting one because lots of people put their hands up in the end, but it was group operations knew most about payments, basically. So they became the owners of the payments data. And transaction data is really most important data, frankly, for most of our use cases, in terms of internal data at least. And what we do then is we say to the payments guys in group operations, do you know who uses this data? And largely they don't. Yet compliance, finance, risk, innovation teams in retail and corporate, they all use this data, but they take a copy of the data from wherever they can get it, some data mart someplace, some legacy system, they pull it out and they create their own version of this data, and they move forward from there, okay? So what we're trying to tell people is stop doing that, okay? Go to the producer, tell them what you're looking for, okay? They'll produce the data, they'll enrich the data as you require it. And for us, that's going to be the centerpiece for safe scaling, because you're going to have, well, you can scale because you're not actually trying to find what data is there, understand that data, and you can do it safely because we can trust the data. The owners and producers of the data will stand over the data, okay? So that's probably the centerpiece of our strategy. Everything else will revolve around that. We will get up to speed on Gen AI. We'll continue to scale our data science team and bring in, let's say, expert data scientists, and tooling will help with this, basically, in terms of building solutions. But what's critical is that they're operating on top of trustworthy data.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Trust in data is immensely important. And if I may turn to you, Arun, given what Ray has mentioned in terms of data, the importance of having trust in data, what you think you personally and the organization you work for are going to do in the next 2 to 3 years in terms of unlocking the value from that data, right? Primarily, perhaps focusing on the cloud and the AI and the Gen AI aspect of it, please.
So, in a way, you summed it up, and again, I go back to the previous point that I made. We as a bank, we are taking a proactive and comprehensive approach to unlock the power of AI, data analytics, dashboarding, and everything included. I understand Gen AI is the topic of the town, but then, well, how many real use cases we have in the financial industry? Now, that's not to say that we should not be investing into Gen AI, but do we have the foundational layer components, good trusted data quality? Do we have the skill? When I'm saying do we, means as an industry. And hence, the framework that we have, it covers, we believe, all the 8 elements which need to be approached, I'll say, in parallel. And we call this strategy as Superb AI Strategy, wherein this is an acronym of the 8 different dimensions of our data strategy framework and different initiatives that we are undertaking in next 3 to 5 years. Where S is the simplification of data estate and data landscape that we have. As you said, Gen AI, easy to say, NVIDIA share going up, can you afford to have your own GPU instances? You cannot. And do we have one? You don't have. The best way is you need to spin up these environments on cloud, whether it is CPU hungry, AI ML model or any Gen AI model. So S, simplification of data architecture and investing into multi-cloud strategy, that's something which is core to what we do so that, we can enable all the unlocking potential. Then comes the understanding customer part, which is the U part of Superb AI. Understanding customer by, combining the profiles and personas of the customer using connected customer approach. And that's where I think we are engaged with you as well, Deloitte. So that's where we are really, really bullish, and there is a transformation piece which is addressing that need. Then comes protecting customer, and that's where, the quality element comes in. As I think one of my colleagues said, garbage in is garbage out. Your AI models are as good as the quality data that you give, and hence protecting customer data, having proper toll gates, technology controls as we move and gravitate things into cloud. That's not optional, that's compulsory in an industry like us. Then comes the E part of Superb AI, that's engaging with customer. And that's where I think we focus on the AI ML cases for cross-sell, upsell, acquisition of new customer, risk models, fraud detection in a very proactive manner so that we can engage with customer and we can address their needs by doing hyper-personalization. Yeah. The R part is the people angle, which is about reskilling and restructuring the teams basis the need of the future. And you have to be proactive about it. You can't just wait for raft of money, budgets, and use cases coming to you, and then you are doing the soul searching that, let's hire people or reskill or retrain your people. And hence, R is very important to the strategy that we have. Then the B part is about the best data quality. You know, we have the mandates from AECB, from Central Bank of UAE, and different 17 countries we operate in, from SAMA, etc. And we take it really, really to our heart in terms of having, the best of the breed tooling for doing the profiling of the customer, doing KYC, reaching out to customers so that the quality of data is always the best. There are two elements we have added to the strategy, which is AI element. It's not artificial intelligence, but as a part of the strategy, the A part actually is about automation with intelligence. You know, automation, RPA is very, very important to what we do, and we are now integrating bots with intelligence so that the chatbots which are there integrated into our mobile banking app as well as in our operational processes, they are intuitive. They're doing the process mining directly. I'm giving this comprehensive answer so that you understand we are comprehensive about what we do, and there is a method to madness. There is a structure to what we do. Last but not the least, the I part of Superb AI strategy is about leveraging the industry ecosystem. So industry ecosystem in terms of association with fintechs, association with government entities, association with entities which can provide us the data, the metadata, and also the models which we could leverage alongside them. Now, whether it's from our competitors or whether it's from the other entities which are operating in this space. It's a long answer, but I think, we are true to that, and that's what we are doing. We are making our waves and transformation as well as, the investment into all the 8 areas in parallel.
Thank you, Arun. I love your superb strategy, by the way.
Superb AI.
Indeed, indeed. Moving on from strategy to challenges, and Garry, if I may pick your brain on, and I'm conscious of time, one key challenge you think financial services, banks as a whole should be proactively managing in the months and years to come to be able to unlock value?
I mean, if I think back in the banking, my banking days, right, prior to joining Alibaba Cloud, to be honest, I think for many of the sponsors that I work with, say from the business side, the product owners, now if I use security as one of the key driver of investments, right, in a bank, you don't see the same level of attention placed on data. And what I mean by that is not so much on the data platforms, the data strategy, is if you're an application owner, if you own this application, and let's just say you're buying a packaged solutions outside, and then someone from the group data office comes to you and say, please adhere to this data dictionary. Most of the response naturally will be like, well, why would I need to get this out to the market. Go to market is priority 1, right? Because that's where the ROI is. So I think that comes back to Ray's point as well, is the financial institution, do you have the conviction to place data in the same importance as security, right? Because if you think about it, when you launch a new product, when you launch a new system, you do changes to your application, it's always the tech risk, the technology risk that gives you the final gating. Of course, there's a production transition and all that great stuff. But is data in there, right? Is there that sign and say, hey, you did not adhere to the data standards of the bank, or you do not have a data pipeline into the group framework, whatever it may be. To be honest, I think pockets of institutes have that, but majority of customers that I work with haven't institutionalized that.
Okay.
And absolutely, but that's again, as I say, this is a rethink of the risk of having rubbish data.
Sure.
Is it the same as having the risk of not having sufficient security built into the system?
Okay.
And if you talk to the CRO today, or the CISO today, it's probably lean towards the security side of things.
Absolutely.
Right, so when does data become the point of, do you have the ability to veto a change to your organization, be it system, process, people, whatever it may be? Right, so I think that to me is, it's almost like everyone sees the price of, I have great data quality, I can make really cool decisions, low cost, automation, people optimization, whatever it may be. But the thing is, have you looked into your fundamental? Does it allow you to have that organization agility to make good use of data at the right point to the customer and to the business. I think that, to me, is really the two-speed. That's what I say at the moment. Is everyone wants to do it, but then when you actually want to do it, you realize, oh, actually, do I actually go back to step 0 and re-look at how am I building up my data asset and my technology asset, right? So that's the challenge, right? I mean, you can't just flip a bank. A lot of institutions have been around for a long time, right? So there's new investment, old investments, but you've got to start somewhere. And you just have to seize the opportunity. And if you firmly believe that AI is the way to go, then you better start putting in some firm investments. And also, I think it's a organizational, cultural aspects of having the awareness of the importance of data, and don't just talk about it's important.
Perfect. Thank you, Garry. Final 20 seconds. I know we've top on time. So, Devid, any final piece of advice to the audience? 20 seconds.
Because I heard what we share, and I wanted to, just a few seconds, share our experience, what we are doing in Investbank. We tackle the opportunity, not the problem, the opportunity in a different way. First of all, we know that the mature algorithms that are working nowadays are image processing, natural language recognition, and speech recognition. Then we know that AI can be applied when you know the problem, but you don't have data. So predicting algorithm can, for example, we are driving a car, you know that each single component of the car has a lifetime, right? So can have a break sometime. So a predicting algorithm that can give you when you are going close to that date, it'd be useful. Second, when you don't have an algorithm and a sequential of analytical solution to the problem, in this case, for example, if you want to recognize an image, testing pixel by pixel, it takes a bit of time, right? So image recognition can give you a solution. When you have to optimize the interface human-machine, speech recognition, language processing can help you. So knowing this kind of three components, we are tackling the opportunity we are jumped directly 3 weeks ago in a new core, native clouds, that allow us to enabling specific, I call it silos, yeah, and it looks like a prohibit kind of term, but in a silos way, enabling some specific domain in which we have specific models that are tackling specific problem. I'm talking about an operation frauds, automation, support decisioning. I'm talking about GenAI, that nowadays everyone can plug API from ChatGPT on Llama and automate. Klarna 2 days ago announced that they are saving 80% of the agent in customer service because they apply the GenAI, ChatGPT in their interaction with the customers. So that's for us in another domain. In the recommendation engine is another domain, but we are tackling enabling specific domain in a roadmap, time by time, and testing results domain by domain. I don't say that this will be the recipe, but at least it's a way that will allow us to having some checkpoint, understanding if the domain applied with this is working or not, and proceed.
Thank you, Devid. So we've run out of time, unfortunately, but I'm sure we can have conversations after this panel. So I'd like to thank all our esteemed panelists and thank you all for the insights and the perspectives that we've had today. And with that, I conclude this panel. So thank you so much.
Conversation, gentlemen, may I kindly request you all to please stay back. It would be our absolute delight to present you with a token of gratitude for all the knowledge and all the valuable insights that you have provided us with today. Ladies and gentlemen, yet again, give them a big round of applause, everyone present here.